Hello and welcome to this episode where we are basically, I'll choose a game for Justin to play and he has to play it for 1 hour and then...
Well, to be fair, we take turns. Last time was your turn.
Last turn was mine. And yeah, so we'll do it hopefully every week, just going back and forward and hopefully chew through some of our backlog, which is mounting daily. Remorse. So last week I saw in your library that you've got, I don't know how to say it, is it V or is it VVVVVV or is it 6 Vs?
I have no idea, which is why I was glad you had to tell what game it was. I have no idea how to pronounce this game.
Okay.
And in fact, I thought it was a very odd name. It is 6 Vs, so if you happen to like what I say and you want to play this game, listener, it is 6 Vs in a row, but I can pretty much guarantee you if you put 2 Vs in a row, it's going to pop up on the Steam store. And if you put multiple Vs, I think it's one of a kind in more ways than one, and that's probably
Maybe
the biggest way.
The genius of its marketing, yeah. You can type in just V and it'll come up.
So, yes, I played the 60 minutes of V.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to say right off the bat, I did enjoy it.
Okay.
But this is a game from developer Terry Kavanagh, and it's from back in 2010, but it feels like it could be from virtually any time.
Right. So what's it actually about then?
Well, there's not so much of a, how do I say it?
Oh.
Like, yeah, what? Oh. That's all right. Well, do you want to start over, or should we just acknowledge the fact that the air conditioning is now off?
The air conditioning is now off.
Yeah. It may not even be that loud, and it may get wiped out in the edit.
Well, it's a good test anyway. We can see, because if it doesn't affect it too much, we can just run that the entire time for next time, so we're not boiling to death in here.
That's a good point. This game, I'll just say right off the bat that it's only about $5 base, so it's not that expensive. And there is a free demo on Steam that you can play, but it is often bundled or on sale. This game is, as we're recording now, 8 years old, so it's not new, and I think Terry Kavanagh's gotten out of it what he needs, so anything we give to him now is just kind of like a bonus. This is essentially a platform game with a simple story and a very simple mechanic in the fact that you change gravity. So you do not jump in this game. You switch gravity so that you float to the ceiling or you float back down to Earth. I say float, but it's very fast. It is very much a platformer, so it can be very, very frustrating. I'm not typically simple platformers I like. Difficult ones can be very rage-inducing, and I can get very frustrated and want to stop. But this game, something about it reminds me of old games we might have played back in, say, the 90s. It's simple, but it's not that simple. So I wouldn't put it, say, back into the Atari days, but I could certainly see this being in the Nintendo days. The characters are basically kind of the stick men, but they're not sticks, so they're kind of just blobby clay men, I guess, maybe. I didn't quite understand the name of the game, but what I have found out is that there are 7 characters, including you, but 6 people that you need to rescue, and all of the names start with V.
Ah, okay.
I had originally thought that it was a kind of down carrot meant to be like gravity is pulling you down, it's about gravity, and then I could figure out why he didn't alternate, but then I was like, well, that would be annoying to write that name. Yeah. How often do we use an up carrot in typing? But I think that this is why, because you have to save the 6 characters that have a V. When you look at the map, you will find that it is a limited map, but it is huge. There are many, many different screens, and this is the type of game where you go from screen to screen.
So it is like an old Atari game, man.
But much more advanced, because the Atari game would be, you do the one screen, okay, so let's take Donkey Kong, for example, right? You would go on the first level where the floor is kind of ramped and you have to jump over the barrels, and then you get to the next level, and then you get to I think there was a third one, but then you would end up going back to a harder version of the first one. This isn't like that. It's much more along the lines of not quite Metroid.
Okay, right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no shooting involved. There's no special powers involved. But that kind of sense that there is a limited space, but there's a lot to explore. And every screen is a little bit different. And what you see on your screen, you might be seeing 2 different paths. So you might be in one section, but you have to go around the long way to get to the bottom section of the screen.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So the screens are individual, but the paths are connected.
It's like so it's like they're tiled, like almost like a RPG style tile dungeon.
I think that's a good way to look at it too. And it's kind of cute and crazy all at the same time. You essentially have danger everywhere. So the basic premise of the story is you're on a ship and then something crazy happens and everybody gets teleported to wherever this place is. And it's dangerous and you have to find everyone else. Just to give you an idea, the thing is the game is not very long, and I can tell you that because there are 6 characters you have to rescue, and within an hour, I rescued 3 of them.
Okay.
So I would say, I don't know exactly what's left for me, so there could be some parts that would be much more frustrating and take longer, but I would estimate roughly 2 hours for the game. I saw somebody on a review who said they did it in less than 2 hours, so I think that's probably a good estimate. I think at most maybe 3, but it's a simple game, and I'm going to keep saying that over and over because it is. When you look at it, it looks simple, but there's something really good about it. It is platforming, but with constant checkpoints.
Okay.
And the checkpoints are basically a giant sea that you have to walk over. They don't hide them at all. There are bonus things you can get. Like the music in this game is really good for this kind of, I guess it's called chip music. Again, reminds me of the old days, but it's good. And you can also apparently unlock more music if you get these 20 discs that are hidden throughout the map. I gave up on a few of them. I'm not that worried about it, but for people who like to be completionists, there is that element to it. There are achievements that are really, really difficult. Like one achievement is trying to finish with under, I think, 50 deaths or something like that. And trust me, unless you're very good.
Yeah. So is it like a Super Meat Boy kind of thing where you're just going to be constantly getting thrown? I mean, how do you die in this game then? There's spikes or enemies walking towards you, or?
Yes and yes. So it's mostly spikes. There are also words that can be floating around. One of them was lies, and that can hit you. I think one was yes that I encountered, and that's part of the thing with this is this world doesn't really make any sense, so they just went crazy with it.
Okay. Because I know it's the same guy that made Thomas Was Alone, yeah?
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Because when the reason I wanted you to play this before I did, as the guinea pig, was because I've seen this game a lot on mobile. Do you think, does it feel like a mobile port to you? Or would it translate well to a mobile? Because it seems like a game that I'd like to play on my phone.
I'm not sure how it would work. I guess it would have to have one of those on-screen haptic directional pads.
Okay. So you're not constantly moving and just would tap to...
No. So you only control 4 things: going up, going down, going left, going right. And that's gravity. It. Well, but the going up, going down is gravity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's not actually gravity. It's only your gravity because it doesn't affect the other characters.
Right.
Or anything else on the screen. It only affects you. So maybe gravity isn't the best way to put it. It's probably more like gravity boots. I don't know. It only controls you going either as low as you can or as high as you can on the screen based on what barriers are around you and going left and right. But there is no jump, which is really frustrating considering that jump has been something we've had since way back.
Yeah.
Since, I don't know what, the original Super Mario Brothers back in the Atari days when you could just jump onto one creature. I mean, we're not even talking the Nintendo one, just that was all you could do.
I remember, what was it? It was just called Mario Brothers, wasn't it? The one that was like...
Oh, maybe it was just called Mario Brothers.
It was just pipes. It was almost like Bubble Bobble where enemies would just pour in.
Yeah, and there were only 3 levels. That's the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, and they became super.
So would it be a good port? I don't know for sure. It works well for me on this one. I don't know how well your controls would be for the left or right. And some of this is very tight, so that could be an issue. But it could be worth trying.
So, like, what 3 tags would you give it then?
I thought about that. I think I would go with platform and exploration and difficult.
Oh, okay, that's me out.
Now, you said Super Meat Boy. It is not to the level for me of Super Meat Boy. But the fact that it has the constant checkpoints does feel like that. The thing that makes Super Meat Boy work is the fact that you don't have to wait. The iteration time is virtually 0. And it's very much the same with this game. There are a few times where I didn't get a checkpoint as close as I would have liked, but for the most part, you don't have to go back very far. Oftentimes, there's multiple checkpoints on one screen. So you can get through each phase and not be too frustrated with it. I mean, you will get frustrated. I certainly got frustrated. But I think this is a game that will remind you of the old days where we didn't have as many checkpoints and you had to keep pushing through, but not to the point where you have to start over at the very beginning all the time. And that is what makes this game work, I think. It has a lot of the simplicity and challenge of the old games, but without the extra frustration that we had to deal with because of the limited resources at the time.
Have you put any more time into it then after the hour? Did you play more?
I played about another half hour of it, I think. So I think for me, it's probably going to take me 2.5.
Did you rescue more than 3 now then?
I rescued 4 now.
4.
I got to 4, yeah. But there are still 2 more. And from what I saw going through some of the reviews, preparing for this episode, there's apparently a section I haven't come to that is going to be the most frustrating of all. So I both look forward to it because it looks like it'll be very interesting, but I'm also a bit worried about it because that may be the thing that stops me from getting through if I get too frustrated. But I think that this is a frustrating game, but it's short enough and with enough checkpoints that it makes it a game that you and I could possibly get through. Super Meat Boy is something where I got through the first map of levels, but then when I started to get to the more complicated stuff in the second one, that's where I haven't gone back again.
Yeah, I've really got no interest in those kind of games, like Flappy Bird and all those kind of like just endless deaths. And probably I think everyone does this where you die and then when you do respawn really quickly, you just run in and you do exactly the same thing to the pixel. And you die again, and you just keep dying like 10 times in a row. Sometimes you need to just like let go of it and just like, okay.
Well, here's something I would say is different about this game than, say, Super Meat Boy. In Super Meat Boy, a lot of times once you get started, you have to keep going through until you get there. There's no pause time, or there's not much pause time. That isn't so much a case in this game. Virtually every screen has a kind of wait section built in.
Like a kind of a safe zone.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That makes it much easier and feel less frustrating. Because sometimes with Super Meat Boy, I feel like when I'm pushing through, I don't have time to look to see what my options are. And that's why I keep doing the same thing over and over again. This one isn't quite like that. Nor is it as challenging as that game, I would say.
Right, okay. So do you think you'll go back and get the other Vs?
I think I will. I think I will, yeah. There's something else too about this game where they have labeled every screen, and sometimes that will help you out, like saying things like stop and reflect or boo, think fast, right? But then there's other ones where it's stay close, but not that close. So one screen will be stay close, and then the next screen you get to will say, but not that close. And that's kind of in relation to, I don't know if there's going to be more of this, but there was a small section of puzzle where you have another character you're trying to rescue, and they will only move when you're touching the floor. So you have to be walking along on the ceiling or upside down at times where they might walk into traps or walk into spikes. So that part of the game I think that you will like very much because it is a puzzle and it is fun. Still frustrating, but it's a bit different and it feels interesting to have it thrown in there. In a point where I might have started to get bored of this game, all of a sudden there was this puzzle aspect. So I really appreciated that. But one of the things I found playing this game is it reminded me again of what it was like to play in the old days and to sit there and have to play through. That hour If I wasn't committed to this 1 hour to start off with, I probably would have played maybe 15 to 20 minutes, felt I'd had enough for one session, and then stopped. I think I got a lot further because I kept pushing through in the hour, but it felt a little uncomfortable at times. I wanted to stop and I wanted to take a break. And there was that part of me that was like, I've got to get through the hour. I've got to keep pushing through. And in the old days, you didn't have the option. You had to just keep pushing through whether you're frustrated or not. And then it gets to a point where I just want to get to the next teleport, because teleport is an autosave. All right, I just want to get there. And it's always a good place to stop because there's no dangers around and you've likely just saved someone or you've just finished a thematic bit of screens, you know, that are all like connected in some way. And so it feels like a good place to stop. So there is this kind of like, I've got to keep pushing through till I get to the teleport because then I'll have this section of the map cleared. So there is something to that, but it doesn't feel like Portal where I want to keep playing. I desperately want to keep playing. With this one, it's more, there's a point where I always feel like I'm playing just to get to a certain point and then wanting to stop. So there is that. But I think, again, the game time being so short will really help for this one. If this game was a 10-hour game, there's no way I would get through it. But to have it be, say, 2 to 2.5 hours, that's probably just right for me.
Right. So a thumbs up from you then? Would you recommend it to me?
I don't know, because I know how you feel about other platforming games, and I don't know how well this will play on the keyboard because I'm using a controller for it. I think if you can get this in a bundle or you can get it cheap, you should. I think some of the dialogue bits are entertaining. It's a cute game. This is the type of game that anybody could play and give a go. I certainly, in that kind of situation, I would say definitely. But I wouldn't tell you to go out and get it right now for the $5. I would say go ahead and wait. But I think it is unique. I think it's interesting enough and challenging, but kind of reasonably challenging. If I can play this and still want to finish it, then I think it's worth at least telling you to give it a try. Anybody who likes platforming games, yes. Anybody who wants to see something that's a little bit different and on the cheap, yeah, I would recommend it to you. I think just the sheer changing of your personal gravity in the game is enough different. Taking away the jump mechanic is enough different to make people want to give this a try and see that it is something that's slightly different.
I was going to ask you as well, is it quite fluid? Are the mechanics good?
I would say so, yeah. It feels pretty tight.
Because when you look at the game, it looks like, yeah, like you said, it's like a retro pixel game almost, but the controls are good, yeah?
I would say so, yeah. I haven't really had a problem with that. I haven't been frustrated because of that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's been frustrating for many other things, but no, I feel...
Because that's a big turn off. Like, when a game looks bad, that's fine, but if the controls are bad, I'm definitely out.
Especially with how tight you need to be sometimes on this. I think what I found the most frustrating was getting the feel for how to jump without actually jumping. So a lot of times you have to move forward and switch your gravity to land upside down on a certain spot. And at first that can be a little awkward, but once you start to get the feel for it, then it feels much more natural. You get more comfortable with it.
Are there parts where you're kind of like running, changing gravity, and before you hit the top, you're changing gravity again to like...
No, that's not something you can do in this game.
Okay.
You have to touch
so you're
before
committed
you can
to
change.
Yeah, right, okay. That really reminds me of a game, again, a mobile game that was like that, but I can't remember. It was called some Gravity something, but I guess the concept isn't exactly a unique one, but from what you said, like, it sounds like a bizarre game, like with words that can kill you and a weird map, and the story sounds... I mean, do you understand what you're even doing there? No, not yet?
I don't understand why we're there.
Right.
But it's very basic. We all got teleported somehow here. We don't know why we're here, but as the captain, I have to go rescue everyone. That's basically the whole story. It's not much of a story. It's simple, but
hopefully there's something at the end that, you know, kind of maybe explains things a little bit more. Probably not.
Possibly, but I guess it's going to take me another hour to figure out. Buyer's confirmation. Thank you for listening. If you like what we do here on Buyer's Remorse, we also have another podcast called Filling in the Gaps, in which we take in-depth looks at puzzle games and puzzling movies. give it a shot. We also have a Steam group.
Steam group is just filling in the gaps. Steam page in the community, you can find us there. We do lots of kind of puzzles to solve to win free games. Sometimes we just give them away for free anyway, and you're welcome to join us over there.
If you have any questions for us, suggestions for us, you can reach us. Probably the best way is through email, which is buyersremorsepodcast@gmail.com. No apostrophe in there, just buyersremorsepodcast. Thanks for listening.